Let's bring in John Sitilides. He's a geopolitical strategist at Trilogy Advisors. And John, in terms of the mop-up duty the Assad regime is engaged in, will there still be sort of pockets of fighting for months, or is this essentially over?
I don't believe it's over by any stretch of the imagination, David. There'll be areas that'll be quieter, such as near the Golan Heights, as your correspondent reported. But let's keep in mind here that where Islamic State has been largely defeated, there is significant pockets of al-Qaeda that have been waiting in the wings to try to rally the Sunni majority against the Alawite population or the Alawite government that's been propped up by the Russians and the Iranians. And there's still an enormous swath of territory in the eastern corner of Syria that's controlled by Syrian Kurds. They're largely in partnership with the United States, but the Turkish government has made very clear that they have no intention of allowing the Kurds to keep any type of a hold on that territory. So some parts will be quieter going forward, but I think we're going to be seeing the civil war playing out in many other ways in other parts of Syria.
But it does seem that the Syrian regime is about to go after Idlib, which is really the last major rebel stronghold. Does that give you a sense that even if the country is still at war, at that point Assad gets up and says, I won?
From my own perspective, Assad won several years ago, really, when the Iranian government was able to persuade Russia to come in the summer of 2015. And as you correctly noted earlier, the Russians really have been the key decisive force here in propping up the Assad regime. They've been the Air Force bombing the rebels every which way in favor of Assad. And the Iranian proxies and their Hezbollah forces have been the ground army to prop up Assad. So the Russians in the air, the Iranians and their proxies on the ground really are responsible for protecting the western half of the country, where the Alawites really are concentrated as a population and where Damascus is situated. But central and eastern Syria remain up in the air. And I don't think Assad is moving in on the Syrian Kurds anytime soon. That'll be a very interesting policy decision by the Trump administration going forward.
John, for those hundreds of thousands of internally displaced civilians, particularly in southern Syria, who over the last month have fled their homes and now they're looking for perhaps a way to get back, does this, at least perhaps the silver lining, is that this provides maybe a respite for them, gives them an opportunity to return, and perhaps even for international aid groups to go in?
I hope it's the beginning not only for hundreds of thousands that you're referencing here, but about 6.5 million Syrians who've been displaced within the country in what is now the 8th year of war, let alone 5.5 million refugees that have left the country. It's interesting. There have been very significant aid efforts, international organizations, the U.S. government through some of these organizations, even the Israeli Defense Forces helping thousands of Syrian refugees and especially children receive medical aid near the Golan Heights border. I don't know how this is going to play out because we don't know what Assad's plans are going forward and to what extent, A, the Russians have any real say in Assad's internal policies, because all they really want is stability for their new air and naval bases on the Mediterranean coast. And we're not really sure yet what the relationship will be between Putin and Assad as it pertains to the future of Iranian forces. My own sense is Iran has no desire to leave right away. Assad may want these non-Arab forces out of his country, but they helped keep Assad in power. I don't think this thing is going to be resolved between Assad, Russia, and Iran anytime soon.
John Sitilides. John, thanks as always for coming in. We appreciate it. Good to have you.